everybody, and welcome to the New Earth Co-Creators podcast. Shall I try that again?
Well, I
All
don't
right.
know. It might be funny. It just
All
triggered.
right. We'll leave it then. It's the prod. It's where we prod you. So it is a podcast. I'm here with the lovely Isabel, and we're just going to have a conversation about what's happening in the community, what we sort of observe and feel. It's an ongoing conversation that Isabella and I have been having behind the scenes. So we thought it would be really cool and maybe kind of fun to bring it out and put it in front of
Yeah.
everybody and just talk. So this is real talk. It's raw talk. You may love what you hear. You may not always like it, but it's all coming from the heart, right?
Well, that's right. And we're going to try to keep it to a 30-minute limit.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think, you know what, starting out, since that's our very first episode, really, maybe we should kind of talk about where we're coming from, why we actually do this, and why we think we need to talk about it.
Sure. Do you want to start? Why don't
Yeah,
we bring
sure.
it to
I
Isabel?
can totally do that. All right, so over the last couple of years, we have been part of several different communities, in particular also gifting communities. So it's a whole different level of awareness and consciousness and how we share knowledge, wisdom, money, um, tools, all of that with each other, right? And we have noticed that a lot of people get really, really excited about it at first, and then they kind of teeter-tot off. And we're like, why is that? And the main common denominator really was trust. That at some point people lost trust in what we were doing, or they didn't really trust themselves to show up, or didn't trust themselves to share their gifts, to share it with others outside of the community, to invite them back in, or to invite them into our community to grow and to be able to network. And it was really a struggle for those who just have the vision, the visionaries within us, we're just like, but no, like, this is where we're going. This is what we have in mind. This is what we see as possible. And people are like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not seeing this. Like when the world circumstances just kind of overthrow them and overwhelm them, not being able to see what is possible. And so we stepped kind of away from the gifting community concept first. Obviously, it's part of all of that, but we're also looking at community. What does it mean to invite people into community? And I'm sure with the next couple episodes that we're going to do, we're going to talk more about gifting as well. But right now, we're talking about New Earth co-creators. And so we stepped away from you need to do this, you have to do this, you have to show up, all of that, and just let it all go, cleared this all completely. And we said, nope, we need to make this all about collaboration, connection. How can we work together? How can we have the conversations actually? How can we invite people into the conversation of what it means to be in community? I think the last 3 years have shown us very well that we have lost the ability to even create relationships with our neighbors. I mean, when it's that easy for neighbors to turn on you just because, you don't quite align with the common narrative, then we have lost and forgotten what it means to be in community. And that's how we started out with New Earth co-creators and created that. And so far, it's been a really amazing journey to see people feeling really drawn to it. Uh, for the most part, we don't even have to actively invite people to just drawn to it. Well, that was the cat.
Mhm.
Um, feel drawn to the community because it's just so raw, it's genuine, and it's a vibration that I love to be part of, where we can just share authentically, openly, and hold space for each other, support each other, get to know each other, create connections, collaborate on projects. Like that is what I'm absolutely passionate about, and that's why I'm so excited about New Earth co-creators.
Sorry, I am too. And I'm laughing because my cat's like, I'm in here. So I put her down and she's crawling up the back of my chair. I'm like, excuse me. But that's persistence, and it was a really lovely metaphor for what you were saying, because that's exactly what you're representing here. And just going through this journey, there's
Yeah.
been this incredible persistence, and I really applaud that. I haven't been part of this journey as long as you have, but certainly have been around for a little while now and observed the different transformations that have been happening. And the utter persistence that has created the New Earth co-creators has been just phenomenal to be a part of, and phenomenal to witness, because at the end of the day, in my humble opinion, with this community and what it represents, which is a totally different way to live,
Yeah.
there's things that might seem familiar. However, for the most part, this is a totally different way to live. It's a totally different, uh, heart centric, coherent with the brain,
Yeah.
um, feeling, caring, loving way to live with one another. And that doesn't mean that we all have to agree. It doesn't mean that we all have to believe exactly the same things. It doesn't mean that we all have to have a religion or a philosophy.
Right.
It's and that's part of, I think, the uniqueness of this community. It's inviting acceptance, and it's inviting people to really reconnect with what feels best to them, to their hearts, to their souls, not just to their kind of mind. And because that's what's, in my opinion, part of what's happening in the world is there's so much indoctrination going on, and it's been done so well through mainstream media. When you talk about trust, right,
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, we don't trust a gifting community, but we'll trust mainstream media because it's been around for so long. We're so familiar with it. Maybe our parents watched it. Maybe our spouse loves it. Maybe, our friends are always
Yeah.
talking about the latest current thing or whatever. So of course we're going to, but if anything has been illustrated to us over the last few years, it is how much is so untrue, how much is just this dance of illusion, and with an agenda, with an end in mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's showing, to me personally, the way I see it is, it's showing how broken our system really is. And that doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid of it. I'm actually, I'm not a fan of chaos, but chaos is also creation. So the fact that it's showing that the system is broken, I cheer that. I'm happy for that, because out of that chaos comes something like the New Earth co-creators, comes something like an opportunity where, when we're
Yeah.
going, there has to be a better way. It's like, yes, there does. And right now, in my own concepts, because I've been thinking about, there has to be a better way for at least a decade, at least, if not
Yeah.
longer. Um, and I've looked at a lot of stuff, and I've conceptualized a lot of stuff. It's part of, I'm just catalyst and creative and innovator and inventor. And so I put things together all the time for myself, for my clients, whatever. Um, it's part of writing music. It's just it's the way I think. And I have not ever conceptually come up with something. I've come up with pieces, but that this actually is. So
Yeah.
in my mind, it's like, if not this,
Then
if
what?
not the co-creators, right, which are not just community that is welcoming to everybody on the planet and saying, hey, let's give each other the freedom and the space to be ourselves, and also be interdependent, which is what we're created to be. We need one another.
Yeah.
Let's live in harmony, right? It's also actually an economy that says, and guess what, we have the reality of a way to generate resource that is required, because I don't care how beautiful a barter community is. I'm
They
not going to.
don't pay your rent, right?
Exactly. They can't pay the mortgage. That you want to go to the grocery store, you're going to be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'll trade you my services. It's not going to work. The manager's not going to say, yes, I'd love to work with you and take your groceries. It's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
until we evolve to a place where maybe we have an equal value system, we are in a place where we still have to have resource. So this answers both. And not only that, in my heart and in my mind, it also takes us to where we become our own conglomerate, right?
Yeah.
And that's not maybe a pretty word for people, but let's face it, that's what's managing the world at this point, is conglomerates, and not very many. So if we become a force that becomes our own conglomerate, right? We now have a position also of authority, which we can actually get things done. And, it's not so much that we're going to go reinvent that system that's broken.
Yeah.
We are emerging as a new system and a new way of life. And I see this as highly viable to become something that is very high profile and really, truly has a great percentage of the planet involved.
I agree. I very much agree. You know what I've noticed too, when it comes to the word community in and of itself, when you look at how government is set up, how society is set up, it's always we're following someone who is leading. Um, and even for me, knowing that I am more of a leader personality, I didn't realize until recently how much I also was following someone that took away my voice to a degree that, I allowed that to happen because I wasn't aware, because I thought, no, I have my, own thing going on and I'm leading. But I also was looking for someone to do it for me, so that I can just happily participate instead of leading. And I think the definition of leadership has become very clear for me through the last, 4 years in particular. Most people look for someone who rule them, who tell them what to do, what to buy, what is healthy, what is not, how to spend your money. And that is where advertising comes in, commercial, TV, all the mainstream media, government. Like, we don't realize how dependent we have become as individuals to societal narratives and what is acceptable and what is not. And even for me, it's like, oh, I don't want to lead because I have to run against all these people. It's exhausting, like this whole story, right? And I had to really let that go and step into how can I create a space where people tap into their own personal self-responsibility. Like, I can take responsibility for myself and how I want to create my life. Taking initiative, right? We talked about it recently. What does it look like to take initiative for yourself instead of just sitting back and hoping someone else is going to do it for you?
You
And
said something that's interesting though, Isabel, that I think people have to
mm,
or deserve to, no have to here, but deserve to actually consider. And that is, if you have somebody saying, okay, I can create my life,
mhm,
right? What you're also asking them to do is to look in their lives and go, okay, if I create my life, then that means I created all that stuff that I do not like. I created that dysfunctional relationship. I'm living in this place that I'm not happy in, or whatever. So, as simple as it sounds, one of the things we're asking for people to do right off the bat, which is not just trust,
mm,
it's actually saying, you know what, everything that I don't like about my life, I actually contribute to,
yeah.
right? And that's a hard one. I think that's one of the reasons why there is a little bit of, push and pull
Mm.
right now as this is birthing and becoming a reality in the US. I mean, let's be clear. This is not necessarily a push and pull in other countries who culturally actually understand this a whole lot better than we do.
Right, but it's mostly Western countries who it's so interesting for me to understand or to see, because we have, people from all over the world. And so we have insight into how other countries and other cultures operate. And, we say as Western countries, we're free. But if you look at it, we're actually the most dependent on government. Those are
Mhm.
the countries who are the most dependent on government. If it's healthcare system, if it's, the employment system, it's the school system, where other countries that don't have that strong support from governments are more community focused because this is how they survive and potentially thrive. Now, obviously, there's also other trauma. If you look at Africa, we talked about it before. There is this programming. You have to rely on the Western countries. You have to, like, you will not survive on your own. You have to always, it's this picture of the Western people are rich and we have to depend on them. We can't do what they can. You know, it's a whole story of programming and indoctrination, but yet they do depend on community. I was talking to someone from India. He recently moved to the US because he thought from here, well, he married someone in the US. I think she was a missionary in India. And they came to the US and he said, I have never felt more poor and lonely than in the US. And he said, and it's not because I don't have the money, but I'm missing the community from India. We may have not had the money, but I was always provided for. Here, I'm being left alone to fend for myself. And of course, everything is more expensive, so you need to have more income. And with his mindset, it's just not there. He thinks $10 a day gets him places when we only get $10. Let's get you a coffee.
Yeah, these days that's a coffee. Exactly. It's exactly right. It's a coffee.
Right? So for him, that was maybe the rent for a month. And those are differences. And yet he's like, I had my community. We always provided for each other. I don't have that here in the US. And that's why it's so difficult for Western countries to say, I want to work within the community. I want to be part of a community.
I think they conceptually do, though. I think that for the most part, I hear people, yeah, community, there's a real pull. Like they want to do something, to come together. They know that something's missing, something doesn't feel right, but they don't know how to do it, I think, is more because we're coming from this total perspective culturally in the Western world in specific. And I'd say that there's more of this too in the first world countries in general. And the larger ones, like the smaller, I'm not sure, but some of the smaller cultures are still a little bit, they harken back to a little more of interdependence, not codependence, but interdependence. But a lot of the larger first world countries and so forth, I think, specifically in the Western world, we deal with this whole reality of like competition. We're competing with each other. I need the big house on the hill. If I get the big house on the hill, I won. It doesn't matter that you're living in a tent by the river, right? I got the big house on the hill. I'm okay. My father used to say, and he's not from this country, but my father used to say, I'm in the lifeboat, Jack, to hell with you, which I used to go, Dad. But now I actually realize what he was saying because he grew up in Africa, right? Where he had a very different type of life, but still there was harmony there somehow between his friends and his whatever he went through. There was always somebody that had your back. And then they moved to Canada, still part of the Western world, and he really developed this attitude that this is kind of how it is. And that people are, I got to get to the lifeboat. If you don't make it, too bad. So if that's, and that's harsh, I appreciate that. So we'll use it as a metaphor. But if that's really kind of the basis of how generationally we've been going, and now we're being commoditized like nobody's business. So of course we're being constantly told it's about this next big thing, and then it's about this thing, and then it's about that thing, and we're also being told don't think about it. I literally just saw a ad for shoes you can slip in because the back is developed so it'll pop up all by itself. So guess what? You don't even have to bend down. Now, for people who have true injury and stuff like that as a medical issue or whatever, like that may be an absolute blessing. However, it was not represented that way. It was like, yeah, I don't have to bend down to put my shoes on. I'm like, really? Is that what we're getting to?
Oh, make it as lazy as possible. It's really interesting because we get to that point of give me something where I don't have to do anything. We're so overwhelmed, but when you actually look at someone's life, it's not that overwhelming. They're just very unorganized and always depending on someone else and trying to compete and trying to hold up certain values, reputation. That is the most exhausting within Western societies, I have found. I'm originally from Germany, and growing up, I grew up in East Germany. So it's a little bit of a different culture than West Germany. because we had to depend on each other.
Mhm.
And at the same time, now obviously communism is not favorable because it can very well turn very fast into totalitarianism.
Right.
But in the way it was set up, it was a community-based setting, and everyone felt somewhat taken care of. And I can actually appreciate that. We never really lacked anything, even though when we got Western packages, it was, of course, all about this is what you guys missing out. You don't even have that. If we would have never been presented with Western packages, we wouldn't even have known what we would miss out on, and we would be happily ever after, right?
Right.
Nobody would have ever even thought of that. But what I also notice is that, and that's when I moved to the US and realized that the most people don't even know their neighbors here. Like in Germany, you know your neighbors. If you need something, you just talk over the fence. You have community gardens. Everyone has that little plot of garden,
Right.
especially in
Right.
the smaller cities. Here, when I share our vegetables with our neighbors, I'm like, we've have never had that. And we lived in different places, but never have I actually created relationships with neighbors or someone offered their vegetables or fruit that they have, in abundance. And that to
Were
me
they
was like,
slightly
really?
suspicious? Were they a little suspicious for a
Yeah,
second? Like,
yes. Do you want something? Like, do you really like want that? But with that, we have created a relationship with the neighbors that where I know if we do need something, we had at some point we had to go to the emergency room, and I knew we could call the neighbors and they would watch our son
mhm.
real quick. It was in the middle of the night too, but they did, because it's like this give and receive, give and receive. And the more you give and the more you are interested and curious about who your neighbors actually are, the more you create community. Now with New York co-creators, oh, by far, we have not figured it out. Totally. We're still, everyone is practicing, and we're really rediscovering what it means to be in community with each other, to serve in a way that again equals out and keeps it in harmony, the giving and receiving, and not just the few giving and giving and giving, because
Right.
that is trauma based as well, and
Right.
then the other few receiving, 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 and yeah, you do the work. And that's something that's important for us, when we started New Earth Co-Creators, to really point that out. There's not one leader. There's not one leader. Everyone has the same opportunities to show up, to share something about that they do or that is important to them. People can write blogs and share it with the platform of New
Yep.
Earth Co-Creators, where we can create a web. I mean, social media will stay around. The internet will stay around. So why not using it for the greater good? If
Mhm.
everyone contributes in one way or another, we can create this beautiful web of collaboration projects. Just the other day, I was having a conversation with two people from Canada. And suddenly it came out that I have another friend who lives on the same island. I'm like, oh my God, I need to connect you two. And it was just beautiful because also their work just really fits well together. And
Mhm.
so they I don't know, I think they said they're going to meet for coffee this last weekend. So I don't know if they did, but I'm curious to hear what that brought. We have so many people that we can connect, and that's for me. I'm the connector. And that's where I want to build community, not on someone who is ruling and telling you exactly how you're supposed to show up, and if you don't, you're out. That's not community. That's,
No, we're really
I
holding
don't know.
people to a higher concept that we're actually all sovereign beings and we're all capable. Now, there are
Yes.
those who are going to naturally step up and say, "Hey, I'll take charge of this if we're good with that." It's like how we came up with the name of the New Earth Co-Creators. There are a few people that took charge of kind of brainstorming, came up, and then we asked the community, send some things in, we
Mhm.
got organized. Somebody set up the poll. 50 people didn't set up the poll, right? Somebody said, "I'll
Right.
set up the poll." And then everybody voted, and that's how we became the New Earth Co-Creators. An election, I think, really created the way that they're meant to be, which
Yeah.
means everybody contributed, and everybody also accepted the fact that whatever name won. Like even though maybe they wanted a different name, they were cool with it because they were all part of this process. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at being inclusive. Some people are normally a lot quieter. Some people are normally, they're part of the community and they just
Yeah.
want to kind of lead from the back of the room, if you will. That's what I call it, because we all lead. We're all creating our own life. Whether
Yeah.
we're doing it consciously or not is the question. And in this community, really the bottom line is that we are looking to consciously create. And that is something that no matter where you are on the planet, that is something that, is happening because everything is evolving. It's calling on our consciousness. That's why there is
Yeah.
so much unrest. And that's also why there appears to be so much chaos, because the veils are dropping, the dimensional shifts are happening, things are happening all around us.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, honestly, the best and safest place that I feel is in conversations like this, in community like this. But it's not enough to
Me
just
too.
talk about it. We can't just sit here and talk about it. As much
No.
as we love
Yeah,
to do
we have
that,
to do that
right?
too.
It's
Yes.
also it's also everybody showing up, and that's that thing of really learning, first of all, how to trust ourselves and trust our own word. And what that means for a lot of people coming in is this is brand new, and there's an agreement that one has to make with themselves that this might work. That's it. Not it will, it absolutely has anything, even though the communities like this, from the gifting side, have existed for a long time, very, very
Right.
successfully. We're stepping it up a notch even from there. And that's what we've decided, is that that this just might work,
Yeah.
right? Which allows for some freedom and the recognition that we're finding our way too.
We
Somebody,
haven't figured it out, right? Like
and,
we're
and,
not
and
like,
we're
oh yeah,
not.
we know exactly how to build community, so now we're gonna teach you. That's not how this is. This is like a
Come on,
experiment, if you so will. It's like,
it's a
hey, what are some
beautiful.
other ideas? How can we
Yeah.
do? And giving a space to call each other out as well in a loving way, and
Yes.
reflecting on that, building on the 5 agreements, right? Be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. Learn to listen and ask questions. Those are the 5 agreements that we really rely on. And how we grow, how we can build a community that thrives. Because, and I know we want to wrap up here within 30 minutes, but within the 30 minutes, what I really want to say is, over the last 3 years, we have realized one thing: your job can be gone by tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
without any notice. um Everything could be shut down without any notice. Your business may suddenly not make that income anymore without you ever seeing it coming. And the only thing that has shown us that will survive is community.
Yeah.
And if we can create financial abundance, purpose, finding our mission, finding ourselves within community, we will thrive and we will make it through whatever is still to come. We don't know what's going to happen in a month. We don't know what's going to happen in 2 months. We can only operate within the
The
here
truth
and
is that
now.
yeah, exactly. It's always been that way. The truth is it's always been that way, regardless of
Right.
what we think. We've never been able to,
Yeah.
I do readings for people, I do energy work, I do all that stuff, and we still live in a free will universe. So no
Yeah.
matter what I may see in the moment, that could change in a heartbeat because somebody goes, maybe not, right? And I want to
Same
say
for
this.
me. When I
In
look at people and I see everything in color, I say, I can tell you the color now, but it could change in 5 minutes because your
exactly.
emotional state constantly changes.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so I want to add to what you just said though, and say when we create, when we are in this place, not
Yeah.
if, when. Not because it's not an if and there's not like if we could, which is an encouragement. It's also, for me, it's really important to call it as a when and as a now that we're
Yeah.
here. And so that there's a lot, that this process, there's not, it's really not time consuming. It's really not hard at all by any stretch. However, it will expand someone in a lot of really amazing ways. And
Yeah.
again, it may mean that we have to own some of our not so amazing things. But the reality is, if we can own that, we have freedom. And that's the one thing I think I can say unequivocally that this community offers to people, is
Yeah.
literally the freedom to be who they are and to co-create a world that they would prefer.
That's nice closing words. Perfect to close it. I would say next we just continue the conversation and
Mhm.
see what comes up because, like I said, we want to share what we're practicing within the community as well. Also, invite people to join us. And
Uh-huh.
for those who are interested, please go to our website. We did create a very simple, straightforward website with all the little links because we can't always recite them every time. But the website is New Earth CC for co-creator cc.org, newearthcc.org for all the information for how to join our Facebook group, Telegram group. We have all social media platforms because that's where a lot of people get invited to share their expertise, their knowledge, where we can co-create, truly co-create a new earth.
So if this calls to your heart in any way, please check us out, join us, participate fully. This is a full on community economy space of evolution, and it is global. We're got 9 countries on board right now, or something
I
along
don't
those
even
lines.
know. I need to look
Yeah, a
through it. I
lot.
don't know.
So
Probably.
there's a lot happening. We would love to have you as part of this, and this is a space where you really get to discover yourself
Mm.
and hold that space for everybody else. And I just can't think of, like I said, if not here, it, what? So that's where I'm at. So I guess everybody listening, I wish you much love, many blessings, great prosperity, and always peace. Always, always.
Yes, same for me, very much. I hope everyone is going to have a great day, a great night, depending on where you're at, obviously. And we'll be back with another episode soon. Let's see what we come up with next time.
Yes. Remember, everybody, together we rise.
Love that.